Welcome in to 3 Shades of Blue TV. Sorry for the delay. Technical difficulties always hit us, and that's all right though. We've figured it out. We got the internet working. We got the computers working. Google's working with us, so we're ready for another night of 3SOB TV. Glad you joined us. It's going to have a great show. We got Grizzlies MC Joe, and then we'll also be talking with my fellow 3 Shades of Blue writer Steve Danziger later. So glad you joined us. Just want to remind you of a few things that here at 3SOBtv and 3SOB Radio, 3 Shades of Blue, 3SOB.com, we're always looking for partners, business partners, people in the community that want to support our work that we're doing here. And if you want to connect with passionate, loyal Grizzlies fans who are well informed and keep up with all the latest news and information about the Grizzlies, feel free to email us, 3SOBtv@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter. Reach out to us there at Zachary T at 3SOBtv. So would love to talk to you, love to connect with you and build those partnerships, and hopefully we can start a great relationship and grow your business. We'll grow 3SOB, and we'll all be happy, right? Hey, well, I don't want to waste your time. It's already late. I got a friend here, Joey Thorsen. I've known Joey. You've probably seen Joey for a while now. Before he was with the Grizzlies, he was over at the Memphis Redbirds as the MC, and Joey, I got a little bit from his Twitter profile here. So he's asking about that. Talented guy. He's a husband, film director. For those of you who didn't know that, film director. We'll ask him about that too. And he is the father, probably most famously now, the father of Journey. That's right, the most famous baby in the NBA right now, as of today. And tonight he's here with us. So Joey, welcome in, man, and glad to have you with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be over here, hanging out with you guys tonight.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about the last 24 hours, man. I know it's been kind of wild, but let's start first with the segment last night in the first quarter. Where did that idea come from, and did you ever expect a reaction that you've gotten today?
It's a reaction that we hoped for, and we kind of hoped for with a lot of the skits and gags and stuff we put together, but I honestly didn't expect it to blow up as much as it did today. So, yeah, what you're talking about is me and our game presentation director, Jason Potter, and Grizz. We were sitting around talking in advance of opening night just about, different things that we could do, and we always, try and give a special moment to Grizz every single game, give him his own time to shine. And it was actually his idea, and we said, we should have a baby, we should hold the baby up in the air, everybody would go crazy, it would be about the birth of a new season, the circle of life, blah, blah, blah. And we were like, if only we knew a baby. And turns out that I happen to have one at home who's crying right now because she's ready for bed. But we brought her up and ran through it a couple times, and yeah, we stuck her out on court there.
I mean, is she always that still and that quiet? I mean, that was what was so amazing. I think everybody was surprised that she was actually so quiet.
Yeah, she's an awesome baby. I mean, I feel like we've been spoiled with her so far. I've heard horror stories with other babies, but yeah, she's always great. And the only thing that ever bothers her, the big thing we were nervous about, was noise. I remember we were at a watch party during the playoff run last year, and we were out at the Levitt Shell. It was great, and she was having a good time, and it was in the first half. And if you remember Game 7 of that first half, we had hope we could win that game. And there was some big moment, everybody cheered, and she just freaked out. We had to leave because she was done with it. So we were nervous about the noise, but you couldn't see it in the video and photos or whatever, but she was wearing one of our pink breast cancer awareness headbands underneath the bear costume. So I think that helped.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty smart, man. That's pretty clever there. So were you nervous at all about Grizz holding your daughter out there when he's, Grizz is this big bear, right, in a this bear costume here, and he's holding up his baby. I mean, were you nervous at all?
It's funny. A lot of people have asked me that. I don't know if I should have been nervous, but I wasn't for some reason. I was worried about a lot of other things, but for some reason I wasn't worried about him dropping her. I think he was, that was his first priority, was to keep her safe.
Yeah. So, just off the top of my head. I know sometimes these little things take a life of their own as they have today, and they've kind of gotten out on Twitter and on various websites. But have you actually been contacted by any of those websites or any major media outlets that want to talk to you or get any other backstory about that last night?
Aside from 3 Shades of Blue, no. You guys are the only major media outlet that have contacted me about it. It was interesting, though. I mean, today it's like, I keep getting text messages, hey, you should check it out. It's all over Twitter. And then, it was this morning, the first thing we heard is Calkins is talking about your baby on the radio. And then I get into work, and then later that afternoon, it's like, oh, you're on Deadspin now. Okay, you're on Yahoo.com now. And it just like kept building and building. It's just weird seeing our little baby that didn't even exist 8 months ago all over the internet today.
All right, so tell me about that. I mean, you are a father now, man. I'm a father. I've got a 2-year-old, so I know life is a lot different now that you have a baby. What's the most difficult thing that you've had to experience or about being a father, and how are you and your wife adjusting to that?
Wow. I've been working in sports for the past 11 years. This is my 6th season with the Grizzlies. And one of the things that's never been an issue for me is it's a lot of hours. We're working constantly. And the reason I've done it for so long is because I love it. It's never been an issue. But it's like I miss her so bad whenever I'm at work now. And I'm at work all the time. And it's weird. It's the first time that I've ever felt that, like, guilty about being at work. It's one of those strange things, and it's a real difficult adjustment a lot of times. I really have to work hard to prioritize my time now, so that way I can leave and maximize my time at home now. Now that we have the baby.
Yeah. So in addition to that, I mean, not only did we have that moment last night, but there were countless other moments that happened in the season opener. From Yo Gotti, I mean, and then the halftime performance, and then you had the other different bits. Where do y'all get the inspiration? Who comes up with these ideas? I mean, is it you and Jason Potter just sitting around in a room, or is it outside people who tweet in or make suggestions, or how does that all happen?
Primarily, it's Jason and myself, but we have a team that work on it. It's our whole game presentation team. So it's Jason, myself, Carly Knight, who's the manager of our promotions. We have Tamara Moore, who is the manager of our entertainment teams and the dance team coordinator. We have Grizz and Taryn Gary. She's also coordinator of a lot of our other entertainment teams, like the Grannies and Grandpas and the junior dancers that you see out there. And we also have an intern every year. This year's intern, her name is Brittany. If you haven't seen her, you'll see her running around on the court throwing out T-shirts at some point this season. But we get together as soon as the season ends. I mean, you'd be surprised. I mean, the day after we get eliminated from the playoffs, we start talking about next season. So, opening night and the entire season is stuff that we've been planning and stressing about for months. A couple weeks has been a little unnecessarily stressful. I'm glad that we finally got opening night out of the way. But, yeah, I mean, when we sit down to talk about opening night specifically, we always look to try and top ourselves from the year before, which makes it difficult because we always feel at the end of every year, wow, we of course we nitpick all the things that we did wrong, but like, wow, we did a pretty good job last year. We had Future here, and the arena looked really cool, and it was a really special night. So that was the first thing we look at, is compare it to last season and how can we continue on our trend of our ultimate goal every single year is really trying to create an authentic Memphis experience within that NBA world.
Yeah, and I mean, one of those things that also got a lot of publicity today, outside of your daughter and Grizz, was Mike Conley and Vince, the Mike Conley show.
Yeah.
I know you're a film director, or you have those aspirations, and you have your own YouTube channel and all these things. So, do you direct that, and how do you make that happen? And did you think Mike Conley, and did you coach them through that? Because Mike did a great job, and Vince played right off of him. Tell us a little bit about that one.
But yeah, for the most part, that idea all came together right in advance of Media Day. And for those of you who don't know, Media Day happens. It's the first day of training camp for the players. So they all come in, and we get 15 to 20 minutes with each guy, and that's our goal, is to get all the video content you see for the entire season that's played in game is recorded on that day, on Media Day. And a few days before media day, we're sitting around just throwing around ideas, and we came up with the old Chris Farley show sketch on Saturday Night Live, where he was just super nervous interviewing famous people. We thought, hey, we've got some guys on this team that it would be funny to see someone interview them like that. And of course, when we start thinking of people with personality and who would be great for it, it was Mike Conley. It was like without a doubt, he was our first choice. So I went and I talked to him, explained to him the concept, and he was on board with it. From the start, I kind of told him what we wanted, and he ran with it. It didn't take much of any coaching or anything like that. Everything you see in the video, it's up on Grizzlies.com, and I think NBA.com picked it up and did some stuff with it today. That was all Mike. He didn't have a script or anything like that. We just gave him just some broad, hey, talk to Vince about some of his big career moments. But yeah, he was great. Vince Carter was great. Vince Carter is quickly climbing up my list of just favorite all-time people. Not only basketball.
Man, he's very polite. He's very just soft. He's kind of a soft-spoken guy, and really Mike is too. In the locker room when I'm around him, I actually have to be right up on both of them in order to get audio because it's so loud and there's so much going on. But is there more to the Mike Conley show? Is this going to be a continuing thing? Will we see others throughout the season, or was it just a one-time deal?
I will say that you saw the first episode of the Mike Conley show.
So there's more coming.
There's more to come. And there's also more good stuff in addition to the Mike Conley show. We've got a lot of really interesting, some of it's weird and out there, but all of it's going to be a really fun season with all the.
So is there anything that you're doing similar? I know a lot of the people last year got deep thoughts with Zebo, and all the things with John Lure was really fun. There are other moments like that.
John Lure will be back this year with a new feature. In the same vein as what is it? Great Moments in Literature with John Lure.
Yes, Great Moments in Literature.
That's right. We've got a new feature with him. It's in the same vein of that. It's slightly different. By request of Zebo, Zach Randolph, Deep Thoughts will be back this season. He's got a whole new list of deep thoughts of things that he's been thinking about.
Wow. Now let me ask you about your relationship with Grizz real quick. Grizz is kind of an icon, right, in the Grizzlies fan world. How difficult is it working with a Bear? I just want to know that.
Well, he's a diva first and foremost. One thing you got to know about Grizz is that in his mind, and rightfully so, people are there to see him. It just happens to be a basketball game happening. So as long as you know that when you're dealing, with a superstar such as Grizz, everything else, you can handle. So, he takes some coddling. He really cares. He really does care. I'm kidding. He's great.
So let me ask you, as the spokesperson for Grizz, is there any chance? There's a lot of talk the past couple of days about 1Z or 2Zs, right? And is it Grizz with 2Zs? Well, the commercial pill says Grizz with 1Z when they talk about the team. Is there any chance that Grizz would actually change the spelling of his name to accommodate the sports writers of the world?
You know what? That's something that I can actually tell you that Grizz has probably not thought about that at all. And I doubt that he would change it to accommodate people. It's interesting how that debate pops up every single year around this time. But I think Greg Akers of what is he? He's with the MBJ now, but he had a pretty good take on it. Grizz is granted, Grizz when we're talking about the mascot, that's him. But when people are talking about the Grizzlies, Grizz is a nickname. So you can spell a nickname however you'd like to spell the nickname. Grizzlies, as long as you're spelling Grizzlies with 2 Z's, if you want to spell Grizz with 1, 2, 3, or 4 Z's, that's up to you. It's still pronounced Grizz. Whatever you guys want to do, I'm a fan of any amount of Z's that you want to throw in there.
I think everybody can agree with that. Just, hey, do whatever you want to do, but we just like to find things the Twitter sphere and the bloggers, we love to just get onto one thing and just hammer it home and never let it die. So that's one of those issues.
That's what Twitter's there for.
Yeah. All right, before I let you go, I asked Rick Trotter this last week, and he had some pretty crazy stories. Is there anything, being in the public eye out there, people see you every week, every game, and are there any fans or weird experiences that you've encountered when you've been out in public?
Oh, wow. I don't know if, anything necessarily weird. I know a lot of times I forget when I go places, and don't get me wrong, I don't think by any means that I'm some celebrity or anything like that, but there are a lot of people that go to Grizzlies games that recognize me whenever, just around town, and I forget that a lot of times. So, I'll go, I'll be picking up some food to go or something like that, and somebody will see me and they'll be like, "Hey, go Grizz," and it throws me off a lot sometimes. That's probably the weirdest experience that I ever have. Recently, we moved out to Cordova, my wife and I, and before we had the baby, and but before then we lived downtown, and all the time walking around downtown, everybody'd say, "Hey, you're the Grizz guy! You're the Grizz guy!" So I feel like I should just change my name to the Grizz guy to make it easier for everybody.
Do you ever get anyone that says, "Oh, hey, you do the Memphis Redbirds"?
I used to, not so much anymore. It's been about I think 2011 is when I stopped working with the Redbirds, but that did happen occasionally, yeah.
Yeah, because I know for me, when I used to sing at a church locally, and I still see people from that church, they go, "Man, I miss you singing. Are you going to sing anytime soon?" And I'm like, "I've been gone from that church for 3 years," but people just don't get it. So I didn't know if you.
Yeah, I started working with the Mississippi River Kings. They were the Memphis River Kings at the time, but that was in 2003. And I still have people every now and then come up and say, I've been keeping up with you since the River Kings days," which, wow, that's pretty wild. That somebody remembers me when I was some 18-year-old kid running around down there in South Haven.
Well, cool, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on. I just wanted to get a little bit of information there about what's coming up this year and all the things that have been going on. And it's been a busy, crazy 24 hours for you guys. And I know we got more coming up on Monday. So everybody make sure you get your tickets.
Yeah, that's right. We've got the game Monday. That's when we're passing out on magnetic schedules presented by First Tennessee. Everybody who's coming to the game is going to get one of those magnetic schedules. I know for some people that's one of their favorite games of the year is to get that magnet schedule. We have a lot of collectors out there. And another cool thing that I don't think has been getting enough play is that our D-League affiliate, the Iowa Energy, they will actually be playing a preseason game here at FedEx Forum on November 8th. And immediately following that game, we will have a Grizzlies watch party where the Grizzlies are in Milwaukee. But the cool thing about that Iowa Energy game is that tickets in the plaza level, and I apologize if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure are $10. It's general admission in the plaza level for $10, and you can buy tickets to sit on the floor for $25. So for people who ever come to the games and whatnot, they ever wonder what it's like to sit on the floor. There's a lot of NBA talent in the D League, going back and forth, especially in the past few years. The NBA's really, it almost seems like discovered, how the D League could be utilized. So that's going to be really cool for people who'd like to come and sit courtside for only $25. So that's on November 8th when the IRNG, they're playing, it's the Miami Heat's affiliate. I think it's Sioux Falls.
Mad Ants.
Force, is that? Yeah, so that'll be on November 8th, a free watch party for everybody. So I encourage everybody to come check that out. It's going to be a pretty fun night. And our staff will be there. So we'll be hanging out like it's a normal Grizzlies game. We'll have our Grizz girls and Grizz all be there. We'll be doing contests and giving out free stuff. So come hang out with us on November 8th, in addition to all the Grizzlies games this season.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Joey. Man, I really appreciate you joining us, and wealth of information as always. It's fun. I'll see you Monday night, and man, go and put that.
Save that brow on Monday night.
Yeah,
it's coming for you, Anthony.
Yeah, are you gonna wear a brow? Is everyone gonna wear a brow on Monday night to kind of mock Anthony Davis?
I don't know. It's weird. You can't mock somebody who owns it like that. That's his thing. So
yeah, man. He grooms that thing. Just
yeah.
so it'll be nice and, I think he might even put some mascara or makeup on it to make it a little bit bigger.
It's definitely enhanced. I mean, I think somebody should do an investigative piece on that, on the authenticity of his eyebrow.
Oh, goodness. All right, man. Well, hey, go put that baby to sleep, man, and enjoy your night, and we'll catch up with you later.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Joey. All right, it's Joey Thorsen, the MC for the Grizzlies in arena, and glad to have him tonight. Now we're going to kick off and go into our high-low. This week, obviously, we had the high of the week was, with no doubt, Marc Gasol last night dominated the game. I think at 32 points, 9 rebounds. He had a PER of 39.2, which is ridiculous. Now, I know he won't be able to sustain that, but that's okay. We'll get into that in a minute with Steve. But Zach Randolph, honorable mention, he himself had 25 and 13 with a PER of 30.3. So both of those guys just dominated. They were nonstop, pounded it in the post. We had 56 or 58 interior paint points. So that was the high of the week. The low of the week would be the other guys who were on the bench, with the exception of Coupon, who really just couldn't get off the bench because you had Tony Allen making defensive plays and Courtney Lee was playing well last night. So Q was just kind of the odd man out. But when he was in the game, he played well. I mean, I think he had a PER of like 13 or 14. So he wasn't awful when he did play. But pretty much the unit was just bad. They were bad as a unit. Costa played 5 minutes, and had Marc Gasol not been playing so well, I think Costa would have got in. But even in the 5 minutes he was in, he was pretty bad. Lure played pretty good defense when he was in there, but offensively he couldn't get a shot to fall. So they were 23 points below. They scored 10 points as a unit, and they were 23 points below last year's average for the bench. So last year we had like this bench. I remember for a while they finally found an identity, and I think if they can find an identity as a unit, and I'm sure these next 12 games won't be great, because Bano's there, and when Bano's in there, Nick Calathis isn't there because he's suspended, and Calathis, though, is the guy that practices with a lot of the guys that are in the second unit, and they're more comfortable. Yeager said that in the press conference. But anyway, that's the high-low for the week. Now it's time to bring in Steve Danziger. Y'all have seen him. He's been here every week with me so far, and tonight it's just me and him, one-on-one. So I get to talk to him about some basketball. He's actually going to be dropping a Friday morning 5 tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, 3SOBtv.com, 3SOB.com, I should say. 3 Shades of Blue every week will drop the Friday morning 5. So let me bring Steve in now. Steve, welcome again, my friend.
How's it going?
Good. So let me ask you, what were your reflections, what were your takeaways from last night's game?
Yeah, so looking at last night, I have 3 main takeaways. Number one, I mean, you hit on most of them, but number one, Marc Gasol, whoa. I mean, for the past year or so, actually for most of his Grizzlies career now, people have been clamoring for him to be more aggressive, and I've been on his defense saying, he doesn't really score that efficiently. He doesn't score, his field goal percentage is always kind of low for a big man, so I was like, maybe this is what he is, and we shouldn't force him to, do more. And he basically put all that to rest today and proved me completely wrong, because last night he was an animal, and I want to see more. So keep that up, Mark. And there's more of that in the Friday Morning 5 tomorrow, as Zach teased. It's one of the questions that we'll be addressing is, will he be hitting 30 points again this season? So number 2 that I wanted to touch upon is Vince Carter. And I'm not going to put any stock into 1 for 7. I mean, LeBron James went 1 for 9 in the first half tonight. It's a thing. It happens. Streaky shooters, they shoot a lot, and they have a lot of good games. They have a couple bad games. Vince will be fine, especially once he plays into game shape. But number 3, something I am concerned about is, and I'm not being skewed by the first game with this. It's something that was a worry before the season, and it's getting worse after seeing it against a team like Minnesota, is that off the bench we have no athleticism. And, that's not to knock the guys that we have. We have very good players off the bench, I think. But last year guys like Ed Davis and James Johnson, they could play above the rim. They could defend athletic guys. And as we saw last night with Thaddeus Young, I think this is going to be a problem until we get a body in there that can, jump and get up there with everybody else.
So do you not think that John Lure is athletic enough to hang in there, and that he kind of just had a bad night? I mean, for me, I feel like he looks a little unsure of himself when he's playing. I mean, he's a very quiet guy in the locker room, but I feel like he's athletic enough, but he just kind of, I don't know. I mean, I watch him play, and sometimes, like in the preseason game, the last preseason game, he had like 20 points. It was crazy. But then, he, like you said, he gets kind of on a hot streak. And what about Quincy? I mean, Quincy's fairly athletic. Is he not one of the guys you think could come in and be that guy off the bench?
Yeah, so it's not that I don't think these guys are athletic per se, but it's more of a playing style. Like Ed Davis, he's a pogo stick down at the bottom of the post, James Johnson, he's always off his feet, and sometimes too much, often too much, which is, I think, part of his undoing in Memphis towards the end. But John Lure, Quincy Pondexter, they don't really play that way. Quincy's not the quickest laterally. He's got great length, which helps him masquerade as an athletic three. And John Lure, kind of the same. It's not that he's not athletic, but it's more of his playing style. And I think that we need somebody that can, elevate and do it willingly and do it often enough that it's part of their nature.
Okay, so how does that happen? Who's the guy out there that can make that happen? I think I know where you're going to go with this, but I mean, so how do we remedy that situation? If you're Coach Danziger and you got on the bench, what are you going to do?
Well, I mean, Coach Danziger would play Jordan Adams, but Danziger doesn't think that Jordan Adams would help this problem either. It's kind of one of the concerns with him is that he also doesn't play that way. I think that the answer is somewhere outside the roster. We saw it last year when James Johnson came on and really changed the course of the season, that it really helps to have an energizer out there, whether or not he's all that effective. I mean, James Johnson was incredibly effective, but even towards the end of the season when he was kind of, waning off his super blood sport awesomeness, whatever we wanted to call him, having somebody like that can just enter the game and, throw the opponent off guard is incredibly valuable, and I think that that's the one thing that this roster is lacking.
Okay, so let's move to something that we were going to talk about last week. We didn't get time to talk about it. I think one of the ways that we can improve that as a team is through the draft. The problem is, I think in the past, when we had the great draft picks, we were unable to capitalize on those picks and select the right picks. But now that we're being, now that we're favorites, we're out of the lottery, we're making the playoffs every year. We've got to be a lot more effective in the type of picks that we have. The mid-range 20-something pick. There's been a lot of talk about the lottery, right? The NBA changing the lottery. Is it worth it? They had a plan that was put together that was voted down to change it. So, is there a problem with the lottery right now? I know you've gone because you live in New York, so you've gone to the lottery. You've gone to the NBA draft. Is there a problem with it? And if there is, how do you fix it?
Yeah, so I am definitely more radical, I think, on the draft lottery, but I try to be even keel about it, and I kind of think it was a good thing that nothing passed as it is right now, like what they were looking at a couple weeks ago, because when you think about it, it's kind of unfair to change the system that teams have been, catering their plans for years, just at the drop of a hat, and there's a whole lot going on with pick protection, which is a huge issue. Teams made trades and instituted certain protections on their draft picks that they sent away based upon this system. And I think that there needs to be a happy medium of, alarming these teams before actually making a change so that, something that would happen, take effect a couple of years from now. You can't fully cater to that because the Knicks, I think, have traded every pick to 2022 at this point. I made that up off the top of my head, but you can't cater to all of those, but I I definitely think something needs to be done. For me, it's not about the tanking so much. Like Philly, if they want to be terrible, and that's fine because that's what the system is encouraging them to do, and it's saying if you could be as bad as you can, we can reward you in the end. But what I think needs to be done is some way to not deter teams from being good when they're close. Like my biggest fear with the Grizzlies is that, say Mark leaves next summer, you got to tear it down because you're going to be so far away from being a contender at that point. And I think that teams that have infrastructures in place, that have been succeeding, making the playoffs, I think they need to have a reason to keep pushing forward instead of tearing everything backwards and saying to their fans, hey, we have to wait 5 more years because the system says that this is how we have to get good. And I mean, there are teams that have circumvented it, like Houston, but it's rare and it's very difficult. It's incredibly difficult to do so. For me, I was just pitching some ideas around earlier today. My girlfriend thinks I'm out of my freaking mind. But I was thinking, what if you reward a playoff team that if you've made the playoffs for the past, I don't know, say 3 years in a row, and you get a lottery pick in the next draft, your draft pick, instead of being outside of the lottery, goes into a lottery, which I'm all for an evenly weighted lottery system, which I know is radical, but in my Danziger commissioner world, that's what I would do.
Okay. So do you think that there's any way to, I guess, assign based upon, if you don't make the playoffs, right? So the 14 teams that don't make the playoffs, at that point, if you don't make the playoffs, you're all equal. Everybody's name is just randomly drawn out of a hat. There's no weighted system because the worst gets, more consideration, all that stuff. I mean, is that a formidable option? Do you think that's something that they would look at, or do you think that the owners are so hell-bent on making sure that the worst team, has the best chance to get I mean, I don't even know how often that happens, though, because usually it's the second or third worst team that always ends up with the number 1 pick. But I mean, is that an option?
You see, here's the thing, and that's why I was saying it's kind of bizarre a world of mine that it would happen in, because usually when you move away from that, because that kind of was the system way back when, but when you move away from something, you typically tend not to go all the way back to it. They moved away from it for a reason, and I was, probably in diapers at that point, so I couldn't tell you why. But to me, the other thing is you introduce such a level of suspicion when something is so completely random like that you get people talking, and people are going to talk regardless. But I mean, I could just see it now. Equally weighted system first year, and the Lakers end up with the next, LeBron James, and everyone's in an uproar. And I guess rightfully so. They're very secretive about this, but I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's plausible. But I think that I would find a way to make something a little bit more evenly weighted work, because to me, I just don't like the concept of saying, hey, you want to be good eventually, just be terrible first and go for it. And I mean, of course, you have to make the right picks and everything, but I mean, they're more often than not, the first pick is a can't miss option. So
yes.
I guess see some more merit rewards.
I guess what I'm saying, though, is I would say that even right now, the way the draft is set up, the way the lottery is set up, is more open to that manipulation, to that secretive manipulation. Because if you were to take all 14 of those teams who didn't make the playoffs, and each representative is at the lottery draft that night, and they all put their own name into the hat or into whatever, and then they just randomly start pulling out names, I don't understand how that would be perceived as cheating, or the NBA rigging the lottery system. I just feel like that's the most fair, that's the best thing to do. Now, I would actually say the higher seeds in the in the guys that make the playoffs, I mean, I think you shouldn't base it upon record, but I think you should base it on the way they finish out the playoffs. Honestly, I mean, I think that's kind of how you ought to do the draft for the guys that make the playoffs. But you're right. I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot that we could continue to talk about. But for the sake of time, let's move on to our final question. This week, it's a hot topic, I guess, to us because we're bloggers and we have a blog that has been accessed and been given credentials by the league and therefore by the Grizzlies PR staff. Over at Portland, the Blazers Edge, which is a SBN Nation blog site, fan site, they have been doing work for a long time. They put in a lot of hours. They put in a lot of work, and they've been a reputable, fair and balanced blog site on Portland. What's happened in Portland, not only the team, but the front office. I mean, most people, and I honestly don't follow them real closely, but most people who do have said that they've knocked a lot of the other blogs out of the park, right? So they are the premier source for a lot of that information about Portland. But this week, Portland decided to tier their credentialing process. So the first tier, you got all access, locker room, practice, access to the players, coaches, everything else. But the second tier, you don't get that. All you get is a free seat at the game in the terrace level, at a terrace level, and then that's it. The only time you can access the players or staff is through interviews, not at practice and not at games. So you can't even get in there to see all of the other, stuff. So what they did was they actually declined their credential because they didn't think it was fair. My question to you is, and I have some thoughts on this too, but I'll get your thoughts first. Do you think that is something that other teams across the league will try to implement, or do you think it's just a one-off and they got so much pushback that it's never going to happen again?
Oh, wow. That's yeah. I mean, I checked out the article earlier in the week, and it was a very interesting thing to think of. I actually, to be honest, I think you might have a better perspective on this as somebody who's done credentialed Grizzlies games. I mean, I've done the All-Star game and draft and things of that sort. But I mean, it's interesting, and I could totally see things going that way because, to be honest, I mean, the first time I got credentialed, I was shocked that they let me in. That oh man, I don't know what I'm doing compared to all these other, big names out there. But it's really interesting, and there are more and more people. I went to the All-Star game the first time, and I walked up to somebody and said, "Oh, I'm with," we were with True Hoop at the time, and I was like, "Oh, I'm with ESPN.com." They're like, "Oh yeah, get in line." Everyone here is with ESPN.com. So it's like there's so many people that I think they honestly do kind of have to tier it in a way, or be a little bit more selective about the people that they let in, because there's just so many people doing this type of thing these days. I mean, I hope that's not the way it goes, but it seems almost reasonable that they would choose to do such a thing.
Yeah, I guess I have no problem with the tiered access. I really don't. My problem and my issue is that you have somebody like Blazers Edge, or in the Grizzlies' case, 3 Shades of Blue, right, that have been there for a while, have been doing the work, have been covering the games. I mean, providing media coverage for the team, and honestly, has probably been going more in-depth than traditional forms of media. There are some radio guys out there that cover just the Grizzlies. They do a phenomenal job of that. And even the TV guys that cover Grizzlies do a pretty good job, but they can't get the level of access, they can't get the level of coverage that a blogger, that a website could, because you're able to do so many more things. I mean, just for us, for instance, right? I mean, we've got this TV blog, we've got our website, we've got multiple writers, we've got a lot of different angles, we've got things that we're able to put up on 25, 30,000 web hits in a week sometimes that people are coming for information. They're getting it from us, and we've become a source. So for you to shut people like that down, I think that's where most people and Blazers Edge had the issue. And I think that's where they were wrong. How in the world are you able to prove yourself as a blogger? How are you able to prove yourself as a media member if you can't gain access in the first place? I mean, I think that's really where the issue is. It's like, well, prove that you're worthy. How am I going to prove I'm worthy? I mean, I can write opinion articles. I can write articles about watching TV, but I'm never going to have access to the players. I'm never going to be able to prove that I'm able to stand in the locker room with them. And, the Blazers said, well, the locker room's too crowded. Okay, bring the guys out to the locker room. I mean, there are ways to handle this that I think would be worth looking into. That I feel like it was just kind of a lazy thing that took place. But I'm grateful for the Grizzlies PR staff, and not just the Grizzlies PR, but the Grizzlies organization, because I think they've been very accommodating and very open, and we have a great relationship with them here at 3 Shades of Blue, and I really think most media outlets have that. I was the same way, Steve. I walked in my very first time into the locker room, into the post-game press conference and the media area, and I'm sitting here looking at guys that I've listened to on the radio and I've seen on TV for years growing up here in Memphis, and I've read their stuff on websites, and I thought, how in the world am I in here right now? I mean, like, this is crazy. I mean, I can't believe I'm doing this. But then after a while, then you realize, well, these guys are just like, they're just like us. They're just people who use their craft and their abilities, to earn a living, or some of them, like us, we don't earn a living doing it, but it's something that we take seriously, we do take professionally, and I think that unless you're able to get that access and prove yourself worthy, there's really no way to make that happen. But anyway, man, I know we could, like I said, there's so much we can talk about and go on, but this is a video blog show, so I don't want to take it too long. But any other thoughts you got on that, Steve?
That's basically all I've got. I mean, I agree with you. I think that there does need to be an avenue for blogs to get out there and prove themselves, and people like us. I wonder. I mean, I don't know that much about the situation, but I wonder if there's a bit of like a sense of competition almost, in that the outlets that the Blazers have gone through officially through the years, if there's some form of competition between those and then us bloggers that do it for free basically. But like I said, I know very little about the situation, so I can't speak to it too much.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I do think there's probably a little bit of that competition. I know with us as media, we're very congenial to one another when we're around one another. But I do know that there's a healthy respect also, and when we know, I mean, there have been times when I've been in the locker room, and obviously the TV stations compete for viewers and for ratings, but one guy for Channel 3 will be holding Channel 13's microphone up there because Channel 13's guy can't get close enough. I mean, those type things that happen. We share information, we talk about things, and we try not to write the same stuff and take the same angles. So I think that's also good. But I mean, just like us, I mean, there's other people, like there's Grizzly Blue Bears, right, or Grizzly Bear Blues. I probably just screwed up their name, and they'll be pissed off at me. But no, I mean, there's guys that do the similar thing, but I think we have our own voice. They have their own voice. They approach things differently than we do, and I think there's space in the internet and the interwebs for all of us. I think that even though there are times when maybe we can be like Grizzly overkill, right? I mean, you can just get kind of all this information that's coming at you so fast, and it's overwhelming for people. I still think that there's a niche market that's out there that you can create a voice, create an identity, and people are going to respond to that. Being in marketing, that's obviously what every brand does, right? I mean, that's just how it works. But all right, before we go, what are your thoughts about this weekend? Moving forward, anything that concerns you, anything that we should be looking at rotation-wise? Do you think, the rookies will jump off the bench? Do you think they'll get any playing time? Well, what about Tayshaun, all that type of stuff?
Lot to handle in one shot here. I think looking forward to the weekend, I'm pretty optimistic. I think the Grizzlies are going to take both games. I think that it's early enough in the season that the back-to-back isn't going to, slaughter their legs too hard. And I have high hopes. Looking at the rookies, I would love to see them out there. Hopefully we could blow one of these teams out and in garbage time get them some minutes. But, I mean, even garbage time I'm not really that fond of as a tool to develop guys. Last year I was totally promoting using Courtney Lee in garbage time when he was, really in his funk. And I think it's good for that to get some guys some looks and, feel better about themselves. But for the rookies, I think they need real game minutes. And I fully understand why they're not getting them yet. But if they don't start, playing when it counts mid-season, then we're not going to be able to count on them later on. I think that they need real minutes to really get into the flow of things and learn how it really goes. I mean, if they want to play garbage time minutes, you could just send them down to D-League. And
so let me ask you this then. Let me ask you: Do you think that it would be possible or it would be beneficial for Jaeger to actually say, okay, I'm only going to play 10 men a game, but the 10 men that I play could change every game, right? So, all right, I've got 13 men on my bench. Every game, 3 guys aren't going to play unless it's garbage minutes. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Jarnell Stokes or Jordan Adams or even Tayshaun, and I'm going to rotate them into a 10-man rotation so that other guys get rest. I think this is kind of like what Greg Popovich does, right? I mean, he's got certain guys that, like, all right, y'all aren't playing. Like, this is your game to sit out. I'm going to take other guys and put them in your position. If we lose the game, we lose the game. But it's more beneficial for these guys to get reps and get actual game minutes and you to rest than it is for us to just wear everybody out.
Yeah, I think that's certainly plausible. I think that the reason why we're not going to see that early on is because Dave's main focus, Dave Jaeger being, his main focus all along has been, we got to get off to a quick start this year, a good start. So I think he's going with the sure hands right now to make sure the traction gets going and everything gets off on the right foot. But you could see a lot of that. I think, if Vince Carter, his age escaped me at the moment. I think he's 37, 38. I mean, give him a day off every now and then, sit him out some back-to-backs. What's it going to hurt to let the young guys play those games and the guys that can really handle it? And last note, I do want to say I think that we will see a bit more Tayshaun Prince than yesterday's did not play coach's decision, although I will be keeping track of those going forward. I think that he is useful. I think he's a useful guy to have for some matchups, and to be honest, I think he could have helped out with Thaddeus Young a little bit, which may sound blasphemous, but it almost felt weird not seeing any Tayshaun. So keep an eye out for him.
All right. Well, and I before we leave, that's it, Steve. That's all I got. But before we leave, I know you would agree with me in this, and we want to say welcome to baby Alice May, who was born today. Jonathan May, our colleague and partner in crime over at 3SOB, he and his wife and their son Holden, they had a baby today. So welcome to the world, Alice, and congrats, Mom and Dad and little brother on all that, or big brother, I guess you could say. And we look forward to seeing you around more. I know you're going to take a few weeks off, but hopefully we'll see you back, and Mom and baby will be doing great. So, Steve, thanks for joining me again, man. Glad we finally got this up. I know we had some technical difficulties, but always enjoy it. Great discussion. And, hey, I guess we'll see you next week or something. 25. Well, cool, guys. Well, hey, that's it for tonight's broadcast. Thanks for joining us. Sorry it was a little delayed, but if you're watching this back on YouTube, thanks for watching. And to our panel, to Steve, thanks for joining me. Joey Thorsen from the Grizzlies, thanks for coming on and talking about all your busy day and everything that's been happening lately. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And until next time, I'm Zach Thomas. We'll see you later.